All right, feel the difference between that, which is very major, we say in music. Feel happy. Feel the difference between that and this. Do you feel maybe a little bit more mysterious? I mean, typically we say sad. Sorry, I've got to push a couple buttons just here on the YouTube side of things to make sure that this is actually being seen in that world where some pictures are being shown as well. So if you'd like to see a couple of the pictures that I'm going to show during this stream, head over to my YouTube channel, which is Gemini Brett. All right, well, listen to this. We're going to play this on something where we can get polyphonic, meaning playing two notes at once here on the melodica. And I just want you to hear the difference between what I'm going to call, to speak astrology, what I'm going to call square and trine. Hear the tension and release. Let's do that one more time. Close your eyes, if you will. I don't know how well this is coming through these microphones, and it's not the most beautiful sounding instrument anyway. But if you would, just close your eyes, and I just want you to feel in your body this transition. You feel that tension and release, yeah? And this is how the world goes round. And this shift from square to trine, to speak of this astrologically, is very evident in the shape of Moon's smile tonight. And also perhaps in the shifting of the light. The sun changed his signs. Why? Because Earth is eternally orbiting that central fire. I think that's a really important remembrance that this is Earth astrology. First of all, we measure the heavenly happenings not from the surface of Earth where we live, breathe, and can witness the lights moving through the stars, but rather from the center of the Earth where we are all one. I think that's a very beautiful and important thing. The other thing is the sun is the sun. And not to say the sun doesn't have cycles, and the sun spins, and the sun moves through space, and all these wonderful things, which is exactly the type of data I would need if I lived on the sun to learn something about my local astrological essence. But I live here on Earth. And the reason why the sun changes signs is because Earth is orbiting the light. Oh, I'm showing Earth as a crystal, and there's a reason why. Let me just say that where the sun is now in regards to Gaia's spine, the sword of our stone, the world tree, our rotational axis, that the sun has shifted from, one of the points on this great hexagon, this circle of life, this seed, to another, from Scorpio to Sagittarius. Do we notice this by watching the sun move through the stars? No, you'll go blind trying. There are ways that we can see this, of course, in the northern hemisphere. Here, moving from sun in Scorpio to sun in Earth Sagittarius, the sun rises further south on the horizon, sets further south in the western horizon. In the northern hemisphere sky, of course, the sun is falling day by day at midday, right? In the midst of fall. the southern hemisphere, of course, the opposite is true. Sun still rising extremely south, setting extremely south, but climbing in the sky, right? Sagittarius time. I mean, this thing that they say about Sagittarius, and it's like optimism and joy and the like. I mean, maybe that makes more sense where the southern hemisphere experience is springing towards summer versus the northern hemisphere experience falling towards winter, right? But I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna think globally and act locally. And because the zodiac really, it's about the structure that's at the center of our earth. It's a global phenomena. And like so many systems of ancient wisdom traditions, the tropical zodiac, the earth astrological zodiac, is not only directionally aligned, it is literally directionally defined. For example, Sun is now southwest of the Earth's center. That's a astronomical fact, y'all. And so southwest in a place that we call the cusp of tropical Sagittarius on the way to the Tropic of Capricorn. It's very far from me here in California. And so nights are getting longer, days are getting shorter. And so, you can put some kind of pink button down shirt on a dude with scruffy hair and something changes, right? I wanted to demonstrate that this way. And again, I just want you to hear, especially for those of you who are just coming in, the difference between, well, to speak musically, a minor third and a major third, but in an astro harmony map that I utilize, and many have before me, the difference in sound between an astrological square and trine. Tension and release. That's what we're here for. Scorpio is a pretty tense, energetic. Is Sagittarius a release? Well, perhaps according to the Thema Mundi, yes. And so for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you see on the screen a slide from one of my School of Earth Astrology Golden Year classes, which is Thema Mundi, Essential Dignity and Astrological Aspects. Let's just focus on this Thema Mundi now, this code that it said was given to us by Hermes Trismegistus that first taught us about, sign and planet relationship, the domiciles, right? The houses of the planets. And interestingly, when the Thema Mundi was first offered, kind of only half of it was filled in from Cancer to Capricorn, Moon in Cancer, Sun in Leo, Mercury in Virgo, Venus in Libra, Mars in Scorpio, Jupiter in Sagittarius, Saturn in Capricorn, right? And this is all about distance, if you will, or speed. I mean, interestingly, if you look from the sun in Leo, Sun, Mercury, Venus, skips Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Earth would maybe, from the sun's point of view, I guess here be depicted by the moon, which is in a weird place anyway. The chart of the world soul, it can't astronomically occur from Earth's point of view. And those of you who are watching this at YouTube will also now see that I'm showing this Thema Mundi fully filled in. And I like showing this with a Taurus rising chart. And the reason why is then we put the lights, the sun and the moon, down at the bottom of the chart wheel, and then we just branch out from the luminaries to Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And so those of you who are watching in that space will also see half of the Thema Mundi in blue for the moon and half in red for the sun. There's actually a way where I feel like we would most beautifully experience this, which is like, I guess, a full moon around 15 degrees Capricorn. Let's say 16 Capricorn to be safe. And then that full moon, right, would shift from fullness and waning through Aquarius. Like, how does Aquarius reflect Cancer light? And the answer is waning quincunx. How does Pisces reflect Cancer light? And the answer is waning trine. How does Aries reflect Cancer light? And the answer is waning square, the waning half moon, right? How does Taurus reflect Cancer light? And the answer is the waning sextile. How does Gemini reflect Cancer light? And the answer is the waning semi-sextile, that balsamic moon, that last crescent that we see in the sunrise east before moon dives into the fire of the sun to be reborn. And in this experiment, we began with a full moon around 16 degrees tropical Capricorn. This would be followed by a new moon at the first degree of Leo. Right, right. So now we have moon and sun gathered together in Leo. And then moon reborn. The Diana's bow, the young moon in the sunset west. Beautiful sliver smile, the evidence of her survival of trial by fire, right? How does Virgo reflect Leo light? Right, the young sliver crescent. How does Libra reflect Leo light? The waxing sextile. How does Scorpio reflect Leo light? The waxing square. How does Sagittarius reflect Leo light? The waxing trine. So let's just be there. Because here we are. And amazingly, it's also reflected by the moon at this time. For just as Sun ingress tropical Sagittarius today, moon ingress tropical Aries, right? Well, what is the relationship between Aries and Sagittarius? And the answer is waxing trine. So if you've been watching Moonlight in recent times, like in the last days, you have very much seen that weird straight line that happens twice a month in the moon shape, right? Such a curvy being, the moon, and yet somehow we find this line when moon is square to the sun. In Hawaii, they talk about these times, whether the moon is at waxing half or waning half, as the olis. And it's like, give people space. It's a time for introspection. I mean, interestingly resonant with the Western astrological tradition, I should say also the Eastern astrological tradition, that would suggest that the squares aspect is tension. Now, there's a difference between the opening square, so that would be the waxing half moon, and the closing, the waning half moon, right? Rudyard called the opening square conflict in action and the closing square conflict in spirit. Now, if we play with the Thema Mundi and we kind of park the sun in the sign of Leo, yeah, then we can see that Scorpio is on the opening square side from the sun. Sagittarius on the opening trine side. Yeah. So what is it when there's a conflict in action, square tension? How can that possibly find release? I mean, one note of relationship changes and the relationship changes. So it's heavy right now and people are really going through it. What if you smiled? What happens? What kind of magical change do you bring to this world? I used to go out and watch the sunset frequently when I lived in Seattle, when the clouds allowed. Maybe that's infrequent. And I love that time. It's such a Libra time, right? You can actually see with the solar disk, especially when setting into the water, that perfect Libra glyph. And everyone's holding hands. And then it gets dark when the sun falls below. And people run home because they know it will get cold. Those lovers who were holding hands on the beach maybe now make out in that camouflage of darkness, you know? And I'm like, hey, where are y'all going? Like, the show is just about to start. Nighttime is the right time. Let's dance with the stars. But, you know, the wise earth astrologer who wants to stay out and really receive those lights is wise enough to bring some logs and a fire making device, right? And I think Scorpio, in a sense, in that opening tension of a cycle, that the Thema Mundi kind of expresses, and that we get to see in that strange straight line in the waxing half moon. There's a tension, there's this feeling that we're going into the darkness. And this happens every night. How can we bring a light into the darkness? You know, part of me is as offended by the bright twinkling lights on houses here and getting ready for, you know, the holidays as I am by daylight losings crime, because in a sense it feels like this intent to take us away from the importance of the darkness of the winter that encourages us to go inside. It's less necessary to our survival than it was in ancient tribal times. And yet, these feasts, these celebrations, these gift exchanges are also so ancient. Now, sadly, some of that feast energy is due to the sacrifices in honoring the truth that some will not make it through. But very importantly, when we're going into the opening of the heart and the authentic human experience and expression, it's okay to bring the light of your smile from the mystery of the dark. And there's something about this Sagittarius expression, the why, that we actually ask when things die, not pretend to. The nature of the seeker. Where did they go? Will they come back? How does it work? Does anyone know? So there's a comment in one of these spaces of me being told what to say. And while I don't disagree that this is happening, I would rather speak much more universally. And while some might say this needs to be the only thing on any mind and any heart so we can elicit change, and I definitely understand, there's a transition happening in the hearts of every person. I wanted to rhyme there, but you have to be careful these days. The actually like pain of self-censorship has also opened more opportunity for me to speak, I hope, in such a way that the gifts can be received by more than one or more than one side or whatever it may be. And I do love the kind of call to action that is happening in the world now. You can feel it in the opening square. What I find somewhat hilarious is how long it's been going on. And actually, there's a comment update that's like, no, I'm talking about the same thing, but from, oh, what would it be? Hundreds of years ago, and yesterday, and 3 months ago, and the like. Anyway, so I'm getting a little obscure here, but this is the kind of the space we want to be. And by the way, I don't want to be told what to say. And I don't want to tell you what to say. And I don't want to tell you what to think. But I do want to help you hear in the heavenly harmonies that tension can lead to release. 'Tis true without lying, certain and most true, that which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do the miracles of one only thing. Hermes tells us in the Emerald Tablets, as above, so below. As below, so above. We are not only audience members of the Celestial Symphony, we have instruments in our hand, and we are implored to jam. When we come to Spirit, Spirit comes to us. What would happen if I simply put on a decent shirt? Is it? And smiled. What does the Thema Mundi say? When times are especially challenging, we have a great opportunity to grow. It's important for us to ask why, whether times are heavy or light. See you in space, friends. Now, I meant to speak some about Mercury becoming visible at this Wednesday, this Miércoles, this Mercury's Day. That will be especially true for Southern Hemisphere friends. I encourage you to look to the southwest after sunset and see if you can get a message from that being who so committedly dives into the fires of the sun and comes back again with a tale to tell. Hail. Mercury, Hermes Trismegistus, the one who holds the philosophy.